Welcome to the Good Faith Podcast, where friends who follow Jesus help each other make sense of the world. I'm your host, Curtis Chang. This podcast is produced by a nonpartisan 501c3 organization. Now, as we head into Christmas, it surely can feel like the news is one long doom scroll. So how then do we make sense of the world in this season with that biblical admonition from 1 Thessalonians 5:18? Give thanks in all circumstances, for this is God's will for you in Christ Jesus. One friend who models for me this thankfulness in all circumstances is our podcast's founding friend, David French. Among his many virtues, David is one of the most consistently cheerful and thankful individuals I know. What is his secret? So I've asked him to come back on the Good Faith Podcast to share that secret with all of us, including 5 specific things that he's grateful for. Here's my conversation with David French. David, welcome back to the Good Faith Podcast.
Curtis, always great to see you.
All right, let's get into it. David, more than anyone I know, you live and work in what seems to me a very depressing news cycle recently.
Man.
I know. Oh man is about all we can say.
Yeah.
So given that, how do you remain thankful amidst it all?
You know, that's a really good question, Curtis. And, I used to say, when people would say, how are you doing? I would say, personally, personally very blessed. Publicly, I'm very worried. And I would try to draw this very sharp distinction between the two. And that's just really untenable. I mean, there's sort of this idea that the larger condition of our nation and the culture around us, or the church or whatever, we can just sort of fend that off completely and be like, my family's healthy and happy and successful, thank God. And now and so therefore I can be happy, right?
Yeah.
Now, I think the more realistic thing is we cannot allow the challenges to make us forget our blessings, but the existence of blessings doesn't render moot the existence of challenges. And it's living in that tension, and that's what we do all our lives. This is just maybe more acute. We had a really rough 2023 and into 2024 because of Nancy's cancer. And we had a very, heart-stopping 2020, 2021 with my granddaughter and her health problems. And so we've been through some really difficult personal challenges. And so when Nancy was healthy and Lila is healthy, and you really, it's been such a blessing. But at the same time, I'm keeping one eye on a lot of things that are happening that are deeply dispiriting and very sad. And when a lot of your fellow citizens are suffering in such profound ways, I don't want to walk around going, life is great for me.
Yeah.
How's it for y'all? And so I think there's we always live in this tension when there is maybe, great adversity outside the family and a period of blessing inside the family, or vice versa. So it's always difficult to harmonize.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's something I want to talk about as we go through even your top 5 list, is just this.
You'll see this in my list. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we do, like this kind of tension between private world and public world. But before we go into that, I'm really curious again, because out of all my friends, you're right up there in terms of people who, amidst really hard times, somehow retains a cheerful, what I call almost like a happy warrior kind of perspective on even really hard things in the world. I'm really curious, does this sort of cheerfulness and gratitude, despite some darkness, is that for you just something natural, or do you have to consciously practice it?
Oh, I would say it's a combination.
Okay.
I think I generally have a pretty optimistic disposition.
Yeah.
I have a pretty hopeful disposition, just sort of innate, so that even when I'm in really rough circumstances, I'm often looking for the light. My deployment to Iraq was really hard. It was really rough. I mean, it was very bad, very tough. But we also had a lot of joy in those moments. And we had a lot of things. There were a lot of blessings in those moments, even in something just very dark and horrible on 19 different fronts, right? And so I do think that I have sort of a disposition to look for the light, to look for hope. But also at the same time, I also am very, very conscious that I think that the people of God are supposed to be people who look for the light and who look for the hope and are able to maintain sort of hopefully, a larger, longer perspective that says at the end of days, death has already been defeated, right? So if we're the people who know that death has been defeated, which is the ultimate enemy,
Yeah.
like whatever enemy you face, the ultimate enemy is death, and the ultimate enemy has been defeated. And so I do have to remind myself of that, Curtis. So it's both a kind of a natural disposition and also very intentional reminders. And then the last thing is that also I'm very cognizant of a high call on our lives. So that, when it talks about the fruit of the Spirit, or, peace, patience, kindness, gentleness, self-control, etc., that's not just something that necessarily flows out of us naturally. But I do think it is it's aspirational as well as descriptive. And so I aspire to the description, if that makes
That's
sense.
awesome. No, and all the years that we've been doing this podcast, both when it was weekly, but also monthly, I do really look forward to these conversations because I think you sort of frame really hard things in the world often by coming back to this like ultimate victory of the cross over death. And so it properly puts the things that in our world can seem to loom so large in its proper perspective. Okay, so that's a good setup to your list, your top 5 list, which I found both interesting and hilarious at different times. So we're going to start with one that really struck me. You listed for your among your top 5, number 5, Dune Part 3. So why did you pick a movie that even hasn't come out yet as one of your top 5 most thankful things of the year?
I mean, did you see Dune Part 1 and Dune Part 2?
I did, yes.
Then that question answers itself, Curtis. We're talking about cinematic greatness. I'm looking forward to Dune Part 3 the way I looked forward to Return of the King, after seeing Fellowship of the Ring and Two Towers. Now, the Dune series does not occupy nearly the place in my heart that Lord of the Rings does, but I included that and also another one we'll get to, for a very intentional reason, which is there's a lot of beauty and wonder like in this world. And now you might think, well, it's a movie, David. It's a movie. But I love these. I love movies. I love, I love good television. I love good movies. And the more I think about a lot of the maladies of our time, I feel like a lot of the maladies of our time are related into sort of thinking that denigrating the joy that's right in front of us, and sort of denigrating the idea of doing something fun for the sake of fun. And I think that is just an indispensable part of the human experience. Is there's stuff that's just fun. It's just enjoyable. And sometimes it also carries a much deeper, greater meaning. Like we've waxed very eloquent over the years about Lord of the Rings.
Yes.
And I don't have the same depth of feeling, as I said, for Dune. But I do think that there is just a level of joy that we need to seek out and to look forward to. And so every year, Curtis, I have to do the same thing, which is I look at what's coming in pop culture, an album, television shows. Yeah. So, I believe there's probably going to be Rings of Power Season 3 at some point in 2026, but that's not been scheduled yet. So I couldn't put it on the list. So I look at things that are coming in the new year to intentionally look forward to them. I like to find things to look forward to and anticipate them and read about them and read everything about like pre-production and production and the trailers. I watched the trailers like 17 times. So, and maybe that's on the low end when it's like Dune or Lord of the Rings, but I just am very thankful for enjoyable things. I'm very thankful for fun. And so that's why I put it on the list. Even though there's much more serious things going on in the world, we have to reserve some time for the things that just are joyful to us.
Yeah. Well, I agree with you, but I temperamentally always have like a little bit of a holding back because I agree with you. I loved Dune Part 1 and Part 2, but I'm scarred, David. I'm scarred by in my 20s, my memory of eagerly anticipating the next Star Wars installment, which was The Phantom Menace, which was just a gut punch of an awful, awful movie.
I mean, the first sight of Jar Jar Binks and my whole worldview tilted on its axis because I thought I trusted George Lucas, but you saw the seeds of it in Ewoks, Curtis. You saw the seeds in the Ewoks. But I will say this: this is
you mean the seeds of disappointment? Is that
the seeds of disappointment? Like what are we doing with like
with
teddy bears?
Fuzzy teddy bears? Yes, that's right.
Fuzzy teddy bears fighting stormtroopers. But when I was young, I loved it. I thought it was the greatest thing. But Villeneuve, when is he disappointed? I mean, Arrival is a top 5 movie of all time, in my view. Yeah. Sicario, the original Sicario, holy smokes. And then you have Dune Part 1, Dune Part 2. I mean, this dude's I have confidence in you. I have confidence in you.
Okay. Well, one of the things about Dune, like you said, it is escapism and a kind of a fun, joyful escapism. But I also find that movie kind of hauntingly prophetic as well. So for me, and we're going to go a little nerdy here.
Please.
One of the things about Dune, of course, is that AI machines are banned from that world. And it goes back to this event that, you just read about.
The Butlerian Jihad. Let's just say
the Butlerian Jihad.
Yes,
absolutely. So in which human beings fought and banned AI machines because they feared or even experienced enslavement to AI machines. And I find that very prophetic today, as we are hurtling down almost unthinkingly to this AI world. And it's in a strange way inspirational to me that human beings can make different choices, albeit in a fictional universe. That I think we need to, kind of be more critical about the impact of AI. So that's me. The other thing, actually, I would just say about that is it was striking to me that in a science fiction movie, when you ban high-powered AI or computers, it actually heightens the drama because it makes human beings and their actions as actually meaningful and changing, kind of the plot or affecting the plot, and not just sort of going to a Deus ex machina of a computer doing something. So
it's very, very different from the Star Trek of,
right,
Captain, have you tried reversing the dilithium crystal?
Right.
No, it's a very clever way also of doing very distant future sci-fi because you can't, it's hard to imagine 10,000 years in the advanced technology or 15,000 years in advanced technology. So just go to sort of say, well, we're opting out of a bunch of it. Yeah. But I thought you were going to say that Dune is also relevant to our current moment because of this desire for the strongman savior.
Go for it. Yeah, say more about that.
Which, a lot of folks who only read the book Dune, the very first book Dune, think they're reading a very different story than they're reading if they read the rest of it. And so
I think they're reading a heroic story of the main
like,
character. Yeah.
That Paul Atreides is like Aragorn, right? Yeah. And the reality is a lot darker than that. And the end of Dune Part 2, a lot of people who'd only read the original Dune book were kind of taken aback.
Yeah.
Like, wait a minute, Chani goes out into the desert and she's disappointed in Paul. Now, there are some changes from the book. There's some changes, but changes were made to highlight in the short term, Paul's actually turning dangerous.
Yeah.
And so it's that the danger of looking to a human being as a Messiah, the danger of looking to a person as a savior. And so, when I say I don't have the same depth of feeling about Dune that I have for Lord of the Rings, it's not to say that Dune doesn't have some really important and profound stuff to say. especially about the nature of power and how even the most well-intended people who have the most righteous cause, like the Atreides cause against the Harkonnens is a righteous cause. Even when you are, a person of decent disposition in a righteous cause, the temptations when power is in your grasp are overwhelming. And sometimes the righteousness of the cause will make you even more dangerous. And so I'm going to be very interested. That's why I'm looking forward. So many reasons. It's going to be so interesting to see the next one.
Well, I think your point about how Dune Messiah, this third part, is really a sort of, frankly, thinly veiled commentary on strongman politics. Again, like you said, even those who want to look to a strongman to advance a righteous cause is really so problematic. And it'll be interesting to see how much Dennis sort of sort of implicitly comments kind of on our current political moment. We'll see.
Okay, can I ask you a tough question that is going to split our listeners and might cause the civil war that ends the podcast?
Okay.
You have one director that you're going to hire, and it's going to be greatness or death. Nolan or Villeneuve?
Oh, that's a great one. I mean, those are two of the kind of auteurs that I would say are most influential. I think Nolan. I'd have to go Nolan, just because the range of topics, and like this is a guy who did Inception and Dunkirk. I mean, just that range is really impressive to me. What about you?
Yeah, it's so hard, Curtis. I'm gonna go Villeneuve by a hair, just because Arrival is so profoundly amazing, just so profoundly amazing. And Blade Runner 2049. I mean, what Blade Runner, the original Blade Runner, may be my favorite movie of all time. And then to have 2049 be close to it, and then you throw in I mean, the guy's on a roll, but it's hard. It's hard.
All right. We will move on to your number 4, which is, on the face of it, a profound choice, which is Luka Doncic. So you started with a movie, now you moved to a basketball player. Say more. Why did you pick him?
Okay, so two fronts. One is very similar to Dune Part 2, which is joy. I love, we have a mutual friend in our fantasy baseball league who has really taught me to appreciate greatness. Even if greatness isn't on my favorite team, or greatness isn't my favorite, doing movies in my favorite genre or whatever, just appreciating greatness. And right now we're watching greatness unfold in the way that he's playing to start the season. It's amazing. And then number 2, it's also about making the best of bad circumstances, Curtis. And here's the bad circumstance. I really care about sports. Like, that I really care. My emotional attachment to my favorite teams is actually unhealthy. And so it's so bad, and I don't know if any listeners are like this, that sometimes I have trouble watching the game live.
Oh, 100%. Yes.
I'll just follow the score. And then if we win, I'm like, oh, I'm all in. And if we lose, I'm going to watch big chunks of it. I'm going to read all the commentary. If we lose, I'm like, ugh, I don't want to think about it. So that's an unhealthy relationship to my favorite teams. All my favorite teams are horrible right now. Kentucky football, miserable season. Auburn football canned their coach deservedly in the middle of the season. The Tennessee Titans are the worst football team in the NFL. No exaggeration. And not only are they terrible, they're boring terrible. It's impossible to watch them. Okay. Memphis Grizzlies, my number 1 alpha team, is embroiled in scandal. Jaw's already been suspended for a game. He's already been hurt.
Again,
we're below 500, although there's signs of life lately. So it's like everything. And I really like sports. So all of these teams that I love are just crapping out on me. So how can I have joy when it feels like my sports house is on fire. And so for me, part of it is, okay, it's like finding other things that are really fun and neat and wonderful in some ways. And so I picked Luka. I could have said Jokic, who's having an incredible season. I'm not going to say SGA because I don't like the way he draws fouls, but we can go down. You get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But some of these other people, other teams, it's sort of about, as I was saying in the sports world, looking for the hope, looking for the light.
Yeah.
What is it that I can do even when everything is going badly in this area of my life that's really fun for me? How can I find fun? What can I be thankful for in that experience? And so that's why it's kind of tongue in cheek, but there's a point behind it.
No, I think the way we approach sports is a little bit of a reflection on sort of how we approach life. Like, because what you described about having to record and watch your favorite team on delay versus just enjoying the moment and where they are, totally true for me. When the Warriors championship run or the Patriots championship run, I just took it too seriously. It wasn't actually enjoyment. And it's such that I couldn't actually watch those games with other people, with even friends, because I just, it was like too much. I just needed to focus on it, even on the record. So, I love this choice to just approach a sports figure for their intrinsic beauty and artistry. Just so that we're not just alienating our non-sports listeners, describe for a non-basketball fan, what is the beauty of Doncic and his game?
Well, the thing that's wild about this, and I was just talking to a mutual friend about this, is that he's not an athletic wonder in the sense that there are players that you can see that it almost feels like John Moran at the peak of his powers. You don't even know that people can jump that high, that they're that fast, or like if you watch, like an Olympic sprinter, and you're just in awe of the athleticism, or a gymnast, you're just in awe of, and that's a lot of what draws us to basketball are these incredible physical feats. Like watching LeBron at age 40, amazing. Doncic just knows how to freaking play basketball. He's a big guy, but he's not super fast. He definitely doesn't have a lot of, athleticism in the way that, say, Jordan did or LeBron did.
Yeah.
But watching him play, it's just like watching somebody who knows their craft, who knows their profession. Same thing with Jokic. He doesn't blow you away with his physicality, with his athleticism in any way, shape, or form. He just always does the right thing. He hits his shots. He has the right pass. He's always in the right place. He puts his body in the right. It's watching Doncic is like watching a basketball clinic. Same with Jokic. And there are some other players like that. And it's just really interesting watching a guy take over a game. And at the end of it, you'll be like, well, aside from some fadeaway threes or whatever, nothing he did was like, I can't believe what my eyes just saw. Yeah. But you just watch him carve up a whole basketball team of the best athletes and professionals in the world. And it's really neat to see.
Yeah, I like that. I think some of my favorite players have been ones who it's a complete crazy belief that you could even approximate what they're doing. But you kind of close your, it's kind of squint. You think, maybe I could do that. Maybe, sort of, or something like that. And there's something about the resonance that like they're an accessible figure. I think Curry was like that. I mean, he was not a totally out of the mind athlete, right? So
yeah, and I think that's one of the reasons why Curry, people gravitated him so much until, of course, he hit the point where he was hitting contested threes over 7'5" people, with the Olympics on the line or whatever. But Curry, and also the interesting thing about Curry is and I love me some LeBron. I think he's the GOAT. Yeah. And I'll fight anyone who says he's not the GOAT.
No, Jordan is the GOAT. This is a running dispute that could split the podcast. But
I could have easily said I'm loving watching LeBron at age 40, but when I wrote the list, he was struggling, and he kind of popped out of it. But yeah, I mean, I think also with Steph, he came across in such a kind of everyman sort of way, like just a friendly guy. He wasn't like the most chiseled, as you said, he wasn't flying through the air. And people really, gravitate to those folks.
It's interesting. It's interesting to think about our attachment to sports figure as a desire for some kind of beauty and transcendence. And there is a
Mm-hmm.
beauty and transcendence that feels accessible, like what we've been talking about with Doncic or Curry. And then there's a kind of beauty that feels transcendent in a different way that's inaccessible, and part of the
Yeah.
wonder and awe is their inaccessibility. Almost like I think of LeBron. Young LeBron is definitely epitomizing that. Jordan, to go back a
Peak
generation.
LeBron.
Yeah,
Gosh.
I mean, it's just a specimen, and you have no even hint of an illusion that you could approximate what he's doing. Or just to take it out of the basketball, just to broaden this out a little for our listeners. I mean, if there anybody who's a tennis fan, my favorite player is Carlos Alcaraz, because just what he does physically is otherworldly, and it's a thing of beauty, and we need, amidst our dark times, we need more little sort of glimpses of beauty, I think. We've started with something from the cinematic world, something from the sports world that I think has a kind of escapist, helpfully, an escapist sort of portal to it that's helpful for us in the midst of dark times. Now, David, for number 3, you put something that is actually dark, though. That's really different from Dune and from Luka Doncic. And you listed for number 3 the Michigan Mormons and their response to a shooting. Why the heck is this number 3 on your list?
Yeah, well, okay, so for those who don't know the story, a man who was apparently just utterly obsessed with and hated Mormons drove into a Mormon church in Michigan, set it on fire, opened fire, killed people, was later killed in a shootout with police. Horrible story, just horrible story. And so, but then the story turned. Within about 48, 72 hours, a member of the LDS church formed a GoFundMe, or a Give Send Go, for the family of the shooter, for the wife and young child of the man who murdered his fellow congregants, or his fellow members of the church. And it took off. Like, the LDS folks leading the charge just poured love and support into the family of the man who murdered members of their church. And it was the reason why I put that as a thing to be thankful for. Is a lot of people say to me, are we going to be okay? Is everything going to be okay? And I can't give them a definitive answer. In our, like, as we've talked about on this podcast, there are people who have lived and died in a state of injustice, slavery, Jim Crow. But why am I long-term optimistic? Why do we repeat that line from Return of the King where we talk about Sam in Mordor, and he looks up and he sees the star and it just strikes his heart, and it says there's light and high beauty beyond the shadow's reach? And for me, the Michigan Mormon story was a story of how light and high beauty unexpectedly penetrates our lives. And so what happened there was people who were trying to imitate Jesus and trying to follow the example of Jesus in the most dark circumstance imaginable, just shot light and high beauty into our lives. And so when I think about that, I think about, people often ask me, why do I have hope? Well, it's not because I know of some 5-point plan that's percolating and is about to triumph. It's because I know the nature of God, and I know the nature of people who follow God faithfully. The people who follow God, we're not perfect, right? By any stretch. We can do a bunch of bad things. But when the Holy Spirit is regenerating you, when you are attempting to follow and imitate Jesus, you will end up doing remarkably good things, sometimes in remarkably bad times. And the way I think about, like, American history, that American darkness has always been answered by American light. And that was a moment in time where that was very, very stark. And so I will tell you this, no matter how grim you think the next year might be, there will be moments of light and high beauty. And I don't know where they'll come, from what source they'll come, how they'll come, but they'll come. And I think that story just reminds us of that, because they took it was like lather, rinse, repeat on the awfulness.
Yeah.
Mass shooting, people die, immense grieving, huge division over like who was the shooter, what side of the fence were they on. And then the those folks in the LDS church just disrupted that whole narrative. They blew up that whole narrative. And so right now there are people, you don't know them, you haven't met them, you may never meet them, who are about to blow up the narrative in some good ways. And we're just going to just look for it. It will happen.
Yeah, I love that. That's a very encouraging point about that. These redemptive high beauty points, they can come from anywhere. Now, that it came from the Mormon church, I think for some evangelicals gives them a little bit of a, wait a minute, I don't know if I can fully cheer that on because it's Mormons. Now, you've really addressed that tendency, at least in some, especially conservative evangelical circles. Back in 2012 election, you and your wife, Nancy, started the effort, Evangelicals for Mitt, Mitt Romney, a clear Mormon. But David, like that seems like an age ago, like eon ago. So
I mean, we're looking for fruit of the spirit right now, man. We're wandering through a desert looking for an oasis. Yeah. And what we just had was like some cool water on a parched tongue. Yeah. And look, the fact that it came through LDS folks leading the charge on it. Well, I tell you what, evangelicals, if you got beef with the LDS charge, the LDS church, why don't you lead the charge, guys? Hanging back and talking doctrine when they're the ones loving this family. It's not that I think doctrine's unimportant. It's just like,
show up.
Show up, guys. Just do it. All right. And lots do. I mean, I'm not saying we don't. Lots and lots of people do, but I'm just saying that when somebody has shown up and shown out the love of Christ in that way, that is not the moments for it to sit down and talk about the Book of Mormon.
All right.
Or debate the Book of Mormon. Yeah.
Right. Okay. We're going to move on to number two, one that which is really important to you and, in a lesser way important to me, but really important to me, which is you wrote Nancy and Lila. So you've already said kind of what, your family went through, but say more in this moment. What are you thankful for? Why is this a number two?
Well, I don't want to move on from gratitude. We went through two very distinct, almost, one of them was about 6 months long, 7 months long, and the other one was more than a year long. Just incredibly, incredibly anxious times. From Lila being diagnosed with very, very, very severe birth defects and in the womb, and was the odds of her being the way she is now were slim, man. And then Nancy getting all cancer diagnoses are grim. But she got a tough cancer diagnosis by the standards of, cancer diagnoses, and fought, had to fight through that, and just really, it was hard. It was really hard. And so here we are now. Lila is right now at our apartment, just happy and healthy, and just a wonderful little almost 5-year-old. Nancy is a very healthy grandma taking care of this wonderful 5-year-old. And I'm reminded, in the Old Testament, there were, when something really wonderful or good would happen, often there would be this to raise an Ebenezer, to build a monument, right, to that wonderful event. And Nancy and I have even talked about that, is how do you very concretely sort of like raise an Ebenezer or build a monument to the good things that God has done in your lives? And so for me, it's not like I have a physical representation, but I want to be ever presently thankful. I don't want to be grateful and move on. I want to be continually grateful, because every day right now, every day is for both of them, is a marvelous blessing. It's something to be thankful for. And for each of us, but when you've been through those kinds of health scares, it's just, it's a different order of magnitude.
It's inspiring and admirable to me that through all of this, you retained a sense of gratitude and thankfulness and optimism. I think it's really hard for people to do that. And so I'm curious, in this period of suffering, how were you changed in terms of how you approached God, how you prayed? Because I find that suffering affects people in different ways. And, for some, it really, alienates them from God. For others, it draws close. I don't think there's one route, but I am curious what yours was through that.
Well, I never felt alienated because I never felt that any of us are entitled to health. Any of us are entitled to prosperity. Any of us are entitled to, all of the things that we strive for,
Yeah.
I never felt that that's an entitlement. I mean, to a lesser degree, I had a major health struggle in my mid-20s that really adjusted my view of like my own health and how stable all that was. And because I do think that a lot of times when we're younger, we sort of, intellectually, we know we're not immortal, but emotionally, spiritually, psychologically, we kind of almost view ourselves in that way. And at different paces and at different times for each of us, we wake up to the reality of our own fragility. And so, I at no point did I think we were anything less than incredibly fragile. And at no point do I think that now we're anything less than incredibly fragile. So I wasn't alienated, but I will say that I think that the one of the ways that I feel like God really showed up for us was and I mean, I hate that phraseology, but you all know what I mean. I think one way we were really blessed was just with a lot of determination. That and when I say determination, I don't just mean okay, she's gonna do the treatment. Like that was, of course, she was gonna do the treatment, but a lot of determination in the sense to try to persevere to enjoy life during a difficult time. A lot of perseverance to show each other grace and to really be Nancy was a light in so many ways during that time. I mean, she got busy painting. She was, when her book came out, she was out there doing podcasts, for crying out loud. She really put her head down and lived life, and that took a lot of determination. That wasn't just like, I'm feeling slightly better after the Red Devil chemo. And so, no, it took a lot of determination, I think, to still enjoy living and still enjoy the time we had and enjoy each other's presence really during a very, very difficult time. And I feel like that was a blessing, just a tremendous blessing in the middle of the ordeal. And it reminded me of, as I said earlier about, the Iraq deployment was darkness in so many ways, but we could find light in the darkness in our fellowship, our brotherhood, our bonds with each other. And similarly, that was a very dark time, but we also had a lot of joy in our own bonds with each other in the life that we had with each other during that time.
Yeah. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. And listeners, you should know that we've got an upcoming episode with Nancy herself that I'm really looking forward to. All right, we've reached the end here for the number one thing that you've listed. By the way, David didn't actually list this in priority. I did as well. So,
I said in no particular order.
David actually said no, but I put it in a particular order. All right, number one, C.S. Lewis. Why did you pick him in this moment?
That's a great question, Curtis. Because I think he has an approach, a distinct approach to Christianity that we that has been of great comfort to me, just tremendous comfort. And also, I think is really, to say that we need to rediscover C.S. Lewis is an overstatement because he's never really gone away. But if you're going to describe the sort of public posture of the evangelical church, if you were going to describe sort of the dominant theological outlook of the dispositional, theological, etc., you would not describe it as Lewisian, or is that even a word?
Yeah.
You would not describe it as reminiscent of C.S. Lewis.
Yeah.
You would not. And so I feel like for me, going back and rediscovering is again too strong a word, but rereading some Lewis has been of incredible comfort about a vision. It really does. I think when you read Lewis, it does provide a vision of Christianity. And I don't even call it evangelicalism, really. It's like an ecumenical, faithful Christianity that it's no coincidence that Catholics will read C.S. Lewis, mainline folks will read C.S. Lewis, evangelicals will read C.S. Lewis, and he will touch each one of us from these different tributaries of that great stream of Christianity in a very particular way. And I feel like, when I look, it's funny, when I look at Pope Leo, I almost see a C.S. Lewisian Christian.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And so the existence, that the C.S. Lewis, thankful for that enduring historical witness and model and example. And then, I could have listed Pope Leo, but, I wanted to stick with Lewis because he has such resonance within American evangelicalism. And he's one of the few people that you will see all of the different strands of American evangelicalism, with the exception of like hyper fundamentalists, have affection for C.S. Lewis. And so I feel like he's a common touch point where a lot of us from different tribes and factions can sort of come together in shared texts, and not just the text, but a shared ethos that can give us hope for a sort of a more ecumenical version of Christianity going forward.
I love your description of his work as providing an imaginative vision that is really compelling to a wide set of people. I mean, his essays are certainly influential and memorable, but what he's most remembered and read for is his imaginative vision, Chronicles of Narnia. Mm-hmm. My wife and I just a couple of weeks ago reread The Great Divorce, and what an inspiring picture of where we are all headed. Sort of heaven, hell, judgment. It's actually for a book that is purportedly about heaven and hell, it's incredibly inspiring and encouraging. Like, I want to be that kind of person that is becoming more real and moving towards the real of God. What are some of your favorite books that is it Narnia? Is it some of his other ones?
Space Trilogy.
Letters. Yeah.
Screwtape Letters.
Okay.
Book 2 of the Space Trilogy, Paralandria.
Yeah.
I adore The Last Battle. Especially the end. The end is phenomenal. There's a passage from the end that I just can't even read it without tearing up. Like, just about the grace and goodness of God. It's just unbelievable. So, and then Out of the Silent Planet, that Hideous Strength is really, really good. But between Out of the Silent Planet and Paralandria, those two are just wonderful. And then as far as, if you're just going to talk about one volume from Lewis, it's hard to talk about one volume from Lewis without talking about Mere Christianity. Yeah. And the other thing is, it's all just so accessible. Like, it's often his prose is beautiful, but it's also very clear.
Yeah.
It's also clear. I remember the sort of like the Tolkien critique of Narnia was like, dude, how can you do this? You haven't even written a fake language yet. Tolkien goes in and he creates entire languages. He creates entire mythology, and it's just so dense and everything. And I love it. But Lewis was just much more straight ahead, and so they both have their place. And I think in this place and time, the real straight ahead, clear, I don't want to say simple, but maybe more simple than Tolkien vision is something that I think can and should really resonate.
Yeah, in an age of deep confusion, deep conflict, chaos, I think the clarity of Lewis is really a reassuring aspect of his work. I think the other aspect of his work is how it can accompany us through our lives. I mean, Chronicles of Narnia can be, I think, sort of wrongly interpreted as a children's tale, but children can read that book,
yeah,
right? And you can move on to Paralandra and the other space trilogy, and just keep going to his essays, The Great Divorce, all of this.
Till We Have Faces is
Till We Have Faces
underappreciated.
is a super complex, like adult, very adult.
Totally. Don't read it to your 10-year-old. Yeah.
Yeah, right. So I'm curious, David, how Lewis has accompanied you through your life. Like when you think back to when you were reading him, like let's say in your 20s, do you read him differently now in your 50s?
Oh, that's a great question because I've been reading him my whole life. I tell people I grew up in a C.S. Lewis family and a fundamentalist church, and those two are not they're not like quite compatible, right?
Yeah.
But I grew up reading. I went straight from Chronicles of Narnia to the space trilogy in elementary school. I mean, pretty young. It was in college and law school that I discovered, the Great Divorce and Mere Christianity, and so I think for me, I went from really beginning to understand the nature of God at a basic level as a kid, then understanding the clarity and beauty and simplicity of the gospel as an adult, and then an older adult, the grace and forbearance of Lewis's ecumenical Christianity. And so, Lewis is not your ally in a denominational battle.
Right.
Right. He's not going to help you in the fight of Presbyterians versus Baptists on X or Y or Z. Right. That's not his thing. And he's not your ally in a Christian nationalist project. He's just doing something different here. And so I feel like, I've gone through this sort of multi-stage process of, oh, this is who God is. Oh, here's sort of the richness of that understanding too. Oh, this is how we live as Christians across all the streams of Christianity.
Yeah.
And I feel like, that's what I love about Mere Christianity. Everyone's like, pick a stream, pick a stream, pick a stream. I just love the title of Mere Christian. Can I be merely Christian? Is that what can I pick that stream?
Yeah.
And so I think that's where it's kind of evolving for me.
I love that. All right, David, let's wrap it up because, wow, when I look back over this list, like you can think these are just random selections. I mean, Dune, Luka, the Michigan Mormons, Nancy and Lila's Health, C.S. Lewis. But in our conversation, it feels like we've drawn various threads through all, or at least many of these selections. So I want to give you the final voice on this. Granted, there are many threads through all that, but what's one that you would pick out to close here of all these different things you're thankful for?
Yeah, it's a combination of hope and joy. Yeah. A big part of the three of the five of the list are kind of in the more hope category, and two of the five are more in the joy category. But both of them kind of bleed over into each other. But if I had to say, what do we need more of? Hope and joy would be two characteristics at the top of the list, right? Yeah. I encounter so many, especially younger people, who seem devoid of hope. Yeah. It's not just that they endure challenges, but they often are also in a situation where they're being told there's no hope. Yeah. They're being told they live in a uniquely horrible time, or that there's very little waiting for them out there in the future. And so I think that particularly for young people, we're being kind of robbed of our hope. And then on the joy part of it, I just don't think there's enough emphasis sort of, especially amongst people who, like you and I, are deeply concerned about what's happening in the wider world and who really can find ourselves being drawn into that too much, that it's okay to just experience joy for the sake of joy. It's okay to have fun for the sake of fun. And maybe it's not, maybe it's even more than okay. Maybe it's kind of like a human necessity. And 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 in fact, it can help our endurance and then help us persevere in through dark and challenging times if we can still pull joy out of our lives and out of our trials. So yeah, I just think those two elements is just desperately needed in our current moment.
Couldn't agree with you more. Well, David, thank you for joining us and sharing with our listeners hope and joy. It's always a joy to be back with you.
It's great to see and chat with you, Curtis.